Hey everybody, welcome back to Northernlion Plays Binding of Isaac AFTERBIRTH Plus. This run, dude, there's no way it could possibly be as, subpar as our previous run. W1, F2, 0W, X9. Yo, look at that rate of fire stat. I love it already. Gimpy? Dude. You know what, game? Apology accepted, brother. I don't want to sound too entitled, but the previous run was a little bit subpar. It kept me on my toes for the whole thing, which is, not a problem for me as an idiopathic toe walker, by the way. But, now hold on, I got lost in my own head temporarily. Don't you? Whoa, Gimpy, thank you. It's gonna hurt. Yeah, fair enough. There was a tinted rock up there. Dude, we're so lucky. An Emperor card as well? Don't mind if I don't. I'll tell you what, if we have no keys at the end of this floor, then I will use Forget-Me-Now. And then Emperor, well, we don't have the Emperor immediately, I guess, but I will use the Forget-Me-Now. If we have keys, I would rather use the Forget-Me-Now on the next floor, but as of right now, we don't have the ability to access the item room if we were to go down to the next floor. So it makes more sense in my personal understanding for us to try to get another free item room, if you will. By the way, I'm doing this episode, it's like 5:50. Oh, you know what? There's a way out, but I gotta think about it. I'm doing this episode at like 5:15 p.m. on Wednesday. The Jeopardy online test starts at 6 p.m. I'm not, especially with the way that this run started, I'm not worried about timing whatsoever. It's a great. We'll die or kill the boss by the time this is over. However, I'm hoping it's going to be an anecdote-rich episode next time. I have to think. I mean, for the test, of course, but also now that we have keys, should we Forget-Me-Now now? I'm gonna say no, believe it or not. Because, what's the risk of Forget-Me-Now now? I know it's a strange expression. Well, the risk is, maybe there will be a deal with the devil that gives us an awesome spacebar item we won't really be able to take, or we won't be able to take it and still get the value out of Forget-Me-Now. So, it is a little bit of a risk, but I still think just having the extra stab at a deal with the devil, now that we actually have keys, is worth it. Even if it's only a 1/3 chance, it could set us up for greatness, like, immediately. So we will probably take the H. Oh, it's a dream come true. Although, the exact thing we were worried about basically did come to pass. But that's okay. We'll leave Guppy's head behind. Flying, incredibly useful upgrade, plus the speed that comes out of it. Now we're not so worried about having left the Headless Horseman behind. I also need to point out, we're making, like, insanely good time. And for that, I can really only say thank you to, having 7 rate of fire. So here's what you do. I really want that tinted rock. I got a sneaking suspicion that's a small rock. So here's what you do. Just keep the fly hovering around the general vicinity. Like I said, making great time, by the way. Oh, you're lucky, dude. Just hanging out. Here we go. This is the one, dude. Okay, how about this one? He's getting close? Oh, what a waste. It's all right. The other thing is Guppy's head was technically free, and also it's 1/3 of the Guppy dream. So, I mean, I'm sure you don't need me to tell you that, but I'm going to tell you that anyway. Now that we have a bomb, we can get that tinted rock. It really becomes a question of, are we willing to give this a shot? And the answer is, I'm willing to give it 1 shot. And you know what? That gives us another 2 shots. And you know what? I'm out. We're not going any further than that. It's a little too dicey now. Empress is still great. So very quickly, we'll just figure out wherever the heck. Okay, we'll probably go to our shop as well. Anyway, how am I doing? I'm doing well, thank you for asking. I am not nervous at all for the Jeopardy test, because if I do badly, nobody ever has to know. It's like a totally optional thing. If I get far enough along in the process to audition, I'll probably be like a little nervous. Although I gotta say, I think in Jeopardy context, I think I got a big advantage at an audition because I work in such a bizarre field that I think I might, even if I do really badly, I might be able to make it onto the show just by people being like, well, he's got a weird job, you know? Maybe they'll be like, get this dummy on the show. People will laugh at him. And then if I'm on the show, I'll be truly terrified. But yeah, I'm just excited for the test, you know? Not even excited, I'm just gonna take the test. I know it sounds like I'm making a smaller deal of it than it is, but hey, you know, take this as your own recommendation. You do the test for yourself. There's a super genius on Jeopardy right now. A man just broke the single-day record. I haven't seen the episodes yet myself, but he broke the single-day record, won $110,000 in a single day on Jeopardy. It's a staggering amount of money to make from one episode of that television program. Wednesday's a routine day for me, you know? I eat the same thing, I go to the gym, I record the same videos. You might be asking, dude, fine by me. And it's a fair ask. Hey, what happens, where's the Baba? Where's the Gungeon videos that were promised? Where's the, you know, the blah blah? Why is there... Here's the thing. They're coming. It just, after being away for a few days, it takes a little bit for the... It's like getting out of a straitjacket, if that makes sense, you know? I've never actually been inside of a straitjacket, but the way I understand it, there's like a formula for getting out of them, you know? And that formula is my life on YouTube. My career, at least. So when you come back, you're way in the straitjacket. Then you record a few episodes of a single series. Sack of Sacks is wonderful. Ace of Clubs, not so much. You record a couple episodes of something, and then that's you, like, wiggling enough to make some space. Okay, you got your arm out. What happens next? You use that arm to leverage yourself, so, you know, if you got to record 4 Isaac videos yesterday, now you can record 5 Slay the Spire episodes. You got another elbow free. Then you leverage that. What do you do tomorrow? You get another 4 or 5 Sekiro episodes out. Then you can get back into the Babas. You can get back into the et ceteras and the Gungeons and the so ons and the so forths. You know what I mean? We're working our way out of the straitjacket. Your safety is guaranteed. I've done this many times before. It just takes a couple of days sometimes. But it is what it is. Especially, you know, I travel less now, but I stream more and I publish more videos on YouTube. So getting the machine up and running at maximum capacity, it does take a few extra days versus, you know, what it used to. When I was, not just when I was younger, but when I, like, made less videos, to be honest. It was a lot easier back then. Let me turn the AC on. It's getting a little warm in here. Oh, that's the good stuff. Feels nice to be in the summer so I don't feel like I'm... Well, I do still feel like I'm killing the planet, but I also feel like it's hot, so at least it's justifiable. Pop this down here. I knew we had small rock coming at some point. Oh, that's why I don't leave the door open very much, because we got a buddy in here. Hello, Tomo. Tomo, I don't mean to slander you. Tomo's okay. I mean, Ruka, I love both of my sons. Ruka, he just demands too much attention. He doesn't like to be ignored. Tomo comes in the room, he meows a couple of times, then he rolls around in his box and goes to sleep. Isn't that right, buddy? Tomo. I told ya. Tomo. Oh, what a good boy, Tomo. Now he's in the box. Usually he'll just roll around a little and he'll take a little snooze. I got them figured out, dude. They're routine-based creatures, just like me. It's like I'm, you know, raising myself. Yeah, Tomo. Tomo, I know I said this, and it might have been a Slay the Spire episode, but if you don't watch Slay the Spire, first off, I understand. Secondly, my boy, he's putting on some weight in a good way. You know, he's been underweight for a long time. We got a different kind of food at the vet's behest. My man's, he's packed on at least a few ounces, which on a cat is not insignificant. You know, he seems a lot healthier as a result. So can everyone give an easy clap to Tomo, please? Also, he left the room. Oh my god. Several seconds ago. So what was that then? That was just the ghost of my desk knocking a tube of lip balm off. Well, this run is sitting pretty, dude. Look at this. I would like... Actually, I shouldn't really complain. Like, our setup is very good, even DPS-wise. So here's what we're going to do. It's an administrative episode, apparently. We're going to grab the lip balm. And then I'm going to raise my chair ever so slightly. Because I could feel my wrists getting pinched a little bit. And I didn't want to... I didn't want to, you know, in 15 years suffer from carpal tunnel syndrome. So I gotta tell you, you know, I'm becoming way more cognizant of ergodynamics. You know, as a kid, how did I sit in my chair as a child? AC Slater style. You know, you turn the chair so the back is on the opposite side, and then you like kneel on the chair. And your parents are like, don't sit like that. And you're like, why? It's comfortable. You get older, you sit a little wrong. And again, this is not meant to be an I'm old bit. You sit a little wrong, your back gets tweaked a little. You're just a little bit less resilient. And in particular, I noticed, like, I injured my shoulder at the gym. Just nobody's fault but my own, just bad form. And it's been hurting now for like, it's been more than a week and a half, I guess. It's getting better, mostly because I haven't been aggravating it, but... And I've also learned to rest. You know, when I was younger, I was like, I injured something. You know what I should do when I go back to the gym? Just hit it with, I don't know, 30 more reps at the exact weight that I was using before. And then the next day, I would be like, oh, why is my arm numb? Now I'm like, you know, slow is fast. You get injured, give it a little bit of a rest. Because the alternative is that you hurt it so bad you can't, you know, you're probably not going to go back to the gym for like a year and a half or something. We get it, you work out. But, no, that's why I'm more concerned with ergodynamics, dude. I can feel it. Like, when I bench press, I feel, like, tenderness in my wrists now. You know, I can feel, like, tendons at the front of my shoulders that are like, oh, we haven't been used like this in a while. So I'm trying to sit right. I'm trying to sleep right. Just say it's getting to the age where that sort of stuff matters. Can I tell you something in the interest of helping, you know, being a charitable, benevolent individual? If I could go back and just tell my younger self one thing, I would say, hey self, just listen to the music a little quieter. You know, I understand it sounds better, or at least feels better, when it's cranked. But, you know, I've been a lifelong earbud user. I don't even listen that loud. I'd listen like just below the orange line where Android goes, hey, if you listen above this, you're in danger of like permanently damaging your ears. So I'm below that. And even still, if I go to sleep, I get well, when I go to sleep, I should say, or if I'm in like a super quiet room, I get the tinnitus. I get the wee. Now, it doesn't drive me crazy because I sleep with headphones in, which might also exacerbate the problem, but also keeps me sane, I suppose. But when I sleep with headphones in, it's on like super duper low, dude. But even still, if I could go back and just really simply tell myself one thing, I'd be like, hey, just crank the music down a little bit. So if you're of that age right now, you know, I always thought that hearing loss was like something that only affected you. Dude, this is real nice. That's a 50, 60, 70-year-old problem. You know, that's not a problem you get in your late 20s, 30s, etc., etc. But I think, you know, increasingly we're going to see people talking about the dangers of listening to music too loudly through devices that pump it, like, directly into your ear canal. Like, we're like... I say we, but I don't know what I mean by that necessarily. But I'm part of that, like, first generation of people that really, like, earbuds were like a new thing when I was in high school. Let's not get that. Headphones have been around forever, but I think over-ear headphones are not so bad. You sacrifice a little bit of enjoyment of the chain smokers or whatever it is the kids are listening to these days, and all of a sudden, what do you get out of it? Well, the ability to sleep without having to listen to Dan Carlin's Hardcore History. You know, maybe that's actually a punishment now that I think about it, because that podcast slaps, absolutely. Either way, it's just a little piece of advice from me to you. Has it destroyed my life? No. I think it's hard to motivate people to do something to change their habits if it's not destroying their life, you know? Do those ads work on, you know, they have like ads for anti-smoking that are like, you know, I smoked and now look at me. You know what I mean? Those ads worked on me as a kid, but that's because I never started smoking. You know, if anybody ever offered me a cigarette, I went, nah. And they went, why not? And I went, you ever see the ad? It's crazy. I wouldn't want to wish that on myself. But if you're already part of the habit, like it takes more to motivate you than just, you know, seeing, you're like, yeah, I know the consequences. I knew them when I started. But to change now, you know, it's harder. So I understand, you know. Even if people were like, my hearing is so bad it drove me like literally insane. Don't listen to the chain smokers so loudly. A lot of teenagers would still be like, yeah, whatever, Dad. They'll probably just come up with robot ear canals by then. You won't even have to worry about it. But one of the reasons I bring it up, honestly, is that I don't listen to music that loudly. You know, I hear other people like on the SkyTrain or in the gym, and like even with my headphones in, I can hear their music, and I'm like, dude, that person is they're gonna be like actually deaf by the time they hit their 40s. Even with my relatively responsible use, I was getting a little bit of tinnitus. Probably, I first started to notice it probably in my late 20s, so it might be too late for you as well. It's too late for me. You can't go back, but minimize the damage in the future. I don't think it's like a public health crisis or anything. I'm just saying, maybe it is, I don't know. In fact, maybe it's the biggest public health crisis of all time. I always wonder about it. You know, you're in a tough spot. If you're advertising anti, like, smoking ads, and now the ones I see all the time, of course, are anti, like, vaping ads. It's really hard to advertise that something that looks cool is bad for you. Now, I want to start by saying, whether you vape or not, I don't really... I'll give you my honest perspective on vaping. I think if you don't smoke and you started vaping because it looks cool, that's kind of dumb. Maybe even really dumb. I think if you did smoke and you've transitioned to vaping as a permanent or temporary stopgap on the road to quitting, then that's super cool. I think you've done yourself a great service in your life. But apart from that, the choices you make in your life, I don't really care, as long as you're, you know, not a terrible person for the most part. But I'm just here to tell you, I don't think vaping looks cool to begin with. Like when I see a dude walking down the street and a big old cloud comes out of his mouth, I'm telling you, the last thing on my mind is, what a cool guy. So I know that makes me seem uncool now. Here's the thing. I could have easily just kept my mouth shut and you would have thought I was cooler. Instead, I opened my mouth to remove the doubt of my coolness to try to, in my opinion, make your health a little bit better. But it is hard to advertise something like that, right? Because I think when you're a certain age or a certain kind of personality, as soon as an ad goes like, you know, don't do this, you're like, oh, this? I hadn't even heard about it, dude. But because you told me not to do it, I'm in. I just bought my starter kit. I understand. Reroll all consumables on the ground. It's a tough job. I know, to be fair, I will point out, I don't know the science on vaping. So, should I keep my mouth shut? No, because, I mean, you don't know the science on vaping either. You're talking about it. Here we are, right? All I know is the so-called popcorn lung and the etc. and the etc. But, I don't know. I think maybe... I'm trying to think about... I'm going to give you some honest truth here. I think that, you know, the generation behind mine, you know, like my parents' generation, that was definitely a smoking generation. My mom smoked. She quit when I was in middle school and has stuck with it. I'm very proud of her even to this day. All 4 of my grandparents smoked. 3 of them are still alive, which is amazing. Maybe the science is a myth. I'm joking, obviously. I hope. That's one I'll say I'm joking, just to make sure we're all on the same page there. But I think the generation below me is a little bit of a vaping generation. You know, if you're like, you're 18 years old right now, I think you're like a vaping generation. I think my generation is a drinking generation, and it's bad. Most of the, I mean, I'm not saying that I know anybody who has like full-blown, like, critical, lethal level alcoholism. But I've read, there's been some troubling studies that have come out recently, which is like people in their 30s and 40s are dying of alcohol-related disease like 4 times faster than the generation before them. And apparently, also part and parcel with this study was like, you know, attitudes towards drinking are changing. Where like when I was in college, everybody was like, yeah, you know, drinking is like, it's not good for you, but you just like do it in college, and then like, you know, maybe have a couple of beers a week when you're an adult. Nowadays, apparently, more and more of the generation that's a little bit younger than mine is like, why would I ever do that? Like, it's extremely bad for you, even in like relatively low concentrations. And you might think like my perspective is going to be like the younger generation, oh, they're snowflakes. Nah, dude, I'm like, that's sick. Congrats. I think it's cool that, you know, the attitudes towards a product that is actually, like, pretty bad for you are changing. Even as somebody who does partake on occasion. You know, like... Sorry, I don't want to be controversial. I was going to be controversial about Cricket's Head. I was like, it's good, but I don't think it's worth it here. You know, it's one of the reasons that basically, I wouldn't say I've become a teetotaler. You know, I cut loose a little bit at Josh's wedding, but apart from that, the alcohol consumption in my life, essentially, since late 2018 has been 0. And if you still drink, that's cool too. Yeah, I got no problem with it, as long as you don't have a problem with it. But, you know, I think my generation, I should say, is kind of just taking it for granted. Like, it's super normalized. And I'm not saying it should be illegal. It's just like, I think, to be honest, what did it the most for me was going to sporting events and seeing people that were just like super badly behaved as a result of this, but otherwise normal. And I was like, man, it's all that plus like cumulative liver damage. Maybe I should rethink, you know, the relationship myself and my generation have to this product. Anyway, I'm just saying. I didn't mean to go off on a rant there. Where was I? I was talking about vaping. Well, it's the same thing. Like, I don't know. Alcohol ads are like the same way. You know, as soon as they're like, you know your limit, stay within it. Everybody's like, ha ha ha, good one. I'm gonna drink 12 Smirnoff Ices and then you fall asleep on the couch. Full disclosure, I've consumed 1 Smirnoff Ice in my entire life. It was out of necessity, okay? But, you know, the most... If they were to do honest advertisements for all vice-laden products, the alcohol ads would be the worst. Because, you know, when I was a kid and I saw ads for, like, vodka on TV, it's always, like, really, really attractive people having an awesome party. They're super fit, by the way, not something that tends to happen if you have substantial alcohol consumption. And they were always just like really clean and crisp and having a good time. And what I think of when I think of alcohol right now, and maybe it's part and parcel of the city I live in, I'll admit. Or maybe you just think that you're cooler when you're drunk than you actually are. So for me, what I think of is like 2 dudes stumbling in midway through the first period of the Canucks game, a little bit too drunk and stinky, and a little bit too old to be yelling the sorts of things that they're yelling onto the crowd, or into the ice, and embarrassing the people that are around them. That's what I think of as like a dude with not a beard, but just a not shaven face, going like, you know, yelling at 19-year-old kids and being like, put them in a body bag. Like, that's my honest alcohol advertisement. In that sense, oh, dude. I mean, an honest vaping advertisement would just be some dude blowing a big cloud in public, and then in his head, he looks like he thinks he's Morpheus from the Matrix, but then everybody else is just looking at him going like, hey, dude, I'm trying to walk here without smelling a bunch of birthday cake. I guess if anything, dude, at least there actually is like a use case. Like, people think I'm like anti-vape. That's not true. I am like anti just starting to do it for no reason except that you think it looks cool. But, you know, I do things because they look cool sometimes too. I'm not above it. Sometimes I'll wear my sunglasses outside even when it's not that sunny. Why do I do that? Because I think I look cooler in sunglasses than I do in regular glasses. I don't wear them at night like Corey Hart. Nothing weird, you know. I'm just saying. But at least there's like a use case, you know, for like productive use of vaping, you know. Nobody's ever been like, yeah, I became an alcoholic because I was addicted to heroin. You know, lesser of two evils and all that. I don't know, man. Trinket Smelter was not doing it for me here. You always got to be careful when you have an opinion on vice-laden substances, you know. It can come across as preachy really quickly. Like, when you're like, you know, I think drinking's bad for you. And then people were like, yeah, well, what about that study that said that if you have, or people who drink occasionally live longer than people who don't drink at all? And then you go, yeah, but did you ever see that study didn't take into account that a lot of the people who describe themselves as not drinking at all are recovering alcoholics who did a lot of damage to their body over the course of several decades of copious consumption, whereas the people that consumed on occasion never really in their lives had a prolonged period of time where they did substantial damage as a result of their more responsible alcohol consumption. And if you strip out the recovering alcoholics from the people who are actually lifelong non-drinkers, then the study's results become flipped on its axis, and then they go, well, you know what, I feel like everything in moderation, including moderation, which is actually like a pretty okay axiom to live by, I think, as long as you don't take it to the second order, which is like everything in moderation, including moderation, but also including everything in moderation, including moderation. You know what I mean? Anyway, I'm not trying to... I wouldn't describe myself as a teetotaler based on my open bar consumption at Josh's wedding. I'm just saying, those are my 2 cents. I'm happy for the younger generation. You don't hear that a lot out of people as they get older. I'm happy for the younger generation that they might be having a more conscious relationship with the substance that people of my generation did. We're just like, yeah, you know... It's just like a normal part of adult life. It's the good... Millennials, myself included, we got a lot of positive traits. Sorry, I slipped into Bernie Sanders temporarily. We got a lot of positive traits. We always ask questions, and sometimes those questions are not productive, you know? What kind of food is going to be served on the airplane? Don't worry about it. There's nothing you can do when you're up there. You have a sandwich, you have a wrap, you have peanuts. What are you going to do? Get some delivery? Don't worry about it too much, you know? And sometimes those questions are good. I'm trying to figure out how to wrap this anecdote up now. This was all inspired because I was walking around the other day and I saw an anti-Juul ad that was like, the whole ad's purpose was, it must have been like legally requested or perhaps even mandated, but the ad was paid for by Juul, and it was like, not the singer, you know, save your soul when you do that. You get the idea. But you know, the Vaporeous Corporation. And it said, like, hey, this is not something you should do recreationally. If you don't smoke or vape, don't start. Make sure that, like, it had, like, information for parents on it. Dude, re-roll me. I'm ready. And I was like, dude, that's really responsible. But at the same time, I can't help but feel like an ad like that is also a little bit like, hey, kids, the government doesn't want you to smoke Juul. But you know what that means, right? It's just because the government is a bunch of old ladies and dudes. They're not that cool. You're cooler than them. They grew up in the 1970s. They made disco popular. You gonna trust them? Nah, dude. Maybe that's not the subtext, but that's how the subtext seems to exist for me. I was there. Mom, you don't know anything. You're old as dirt. You were a teenager in the early 1980s. The world's changed and left you behind. Now I'm like, man, my mom was really young. She's like my peer. People, you know, I know it's like a meme almost, but when me and my mom hang out, sometimes people think my mom is my sister. And I know you're like, oh, they're just doing that to get tips. Yeah, but, you know, she's like 54 and she looks real good. And I'm 30 and I'm bald and have been since I was 19. So, I'm not saying people think I'm older than my mom. I'm just saying that I think you know, whenever there's like a retail context, people are like, hey, you know, if there's any benefit of a doubt, why not risk on the side of being flattering, you know? I got nothing. I'm not embarrassed about myself. Ever since I've started working out, at least it's a work in progress instead of a work that has ceased progress. But I'm happy for my mom and myself because, I mean, I got her genes. And like I said, you know, 3 of my grandparents are still alive. It's pretty amazing. I don't know if that means I come from good stock. This might all seem very ironic if I die young. But like, on my mom's side, my grandparents are in like their mid-80s. My grandfather has been overweight since living memory, for sure. And I don't say this to be rude to him. He's an 80-year-old man. It's almost a compliment to say that he's overweight still. And that's why I'm not obviously wishing ill will on my grandfather. I'm like, you know, the fact that he's active too, you know, relative for an 85-year-old man. The fact that he's still active and, you know, fairly robust in spite of his age is very encouraging. In spite of his age and weight is pretty encouraging. Both he and his wife, my grandma, survived cancer. My other grandma, she's kicking around. She's only in like her early 70s, I think. She's still pretty young, but it's encouraging stuff. Now, one of my grandfathers did die when he was like in his early 60s, but he did that to himself. I don't mean he did that to himself. I mean like via his habits, he did that to himself. But anyway, you know what they say, brother? 3 out of 4 ain't bad. Anyway, this is a weird episode. Excited to take the Jeopardy test. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it as well. If you did, click the like button. It helps out a great deal. Of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For now, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. See ya!